Welcome to my books and storytime by mybooksummary.com. Skin in the Game by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. In Skin in the Game, Nassim Nicholas Taleb presents a bold and provocative argument about risk, fairness, and accountability. The core idea of the book is simple yet profound. People who make decisions should bear the consequences of those decisions. In other words, if you have skin in the game, you are more likely to act responsibly, make better choices, and contribute meaningfully to society. Conversely, those who impose risks on others without facing consequences themselves create imbalances that lead to fragility and systemic failures. Taleb, a former trader and risk analyst, explores this principle across various domains, including politics, finance, ethics, and everyday life. He weaves together historical examples, philosophical reflections, and mathematical insights to argue that skin in the game is not just a concept of fairness. It is a fundamental driver of long-term stability and survival. What is skin in the game? The idea of skin in the game can be traced back to ancient wisdom. Throughout history, leaders, warriors, and merchants had to bear the risks of their decisions. A general who led his troops into battle risked his own life. A merchant whose cargo was lost at sea suffered financial loss. This direct link between action and consequence ensured accountability and trust. However, in modern society, many individuals and institutions operate without this burden. Politicians pass policies but don't suffer when they fail. Corporate executives make reckless financial bets but receive golden parachutes when their companies collapse. Pundits give terrible advice yet face no repercussions when they're wrong. This asymmetry creates perverse incentives, where people take risks at the expense of others. Taleb argues that such imbalances lead to fragility. Systems in which decision-makers do not bear consequences inevitably collapse because they encourage reckless behavior. Conversely, systems where people have skin in the game, where they share in both risks and rewards, are more robust and sustainable. The difference between theory and practice. One of Taleb's key critiques is against intellectuals yet idiots, IYIs. People who theorize about risk but do not experience it firsthand. He contrasts them with practical doers who have real-world experience. For example, a surgeon who has performed thousands of operations understands medical risks better than a health policy analyst who has never stepped inside an operating room. Taleb warns against blindly trusting experts who have no personal stake in the outcomes of their advice. He criticizes bureaucrats, academics, and journalists who influence society yet remain insulated from the consequences of their errors. The problem, he argues, is that these individuals often make decisions based on abstract models rather than lived reality. When things go wrong, they either deny responsibility or blame external factors. In contrast, people who operate in high-risk environments, such as entrepreneurs, artisans, and frontline workers, tend to make better decisions because they have direct feedback loops. If a restaurant owner serves bad food, customers stop coming. If a carpenter builds a weak structure, it collapses, and they lose their reputation. This immediate accountability ensures higher quality and more ethical behavior. Ethics and moral responsibility. At the heart of skin in the game is an ethical argument. Fairness requires that those who impose risks on others also share in those risks. This principle is embedded in many traditional societies. In medieval times, bridge builders were required to sleep under their newly constructed bridges for a certain period. If the bridge collapsed, they perished. This ensured that builders had a strong incentive to construct durable, safe structures. However, in modern institutions, this principle is often ignored. Financial executives who caused the 2008 economic crisis were bailed out while ordinary taxpayers bore the losses. Military strategists who advocate for war rarely send their own children to fight. Taleb sees this as moral corruption, a sign that society has become detached from the natural consequences of action. To counteract this, Taleb argues for a return to localism and decentralized systems, where decision-makers are more directly connected to the outcomes of their choices. He favors smaller, more accountable structures over large bureaucracies that shield individuals from responsibility. The minority rule, how small groups shape society. One of the most fascinating insights in Skin in the Game is the concept of the minority rule. Taleb explains how a small, intransigent minority can influence the majority through sheer persistence. If a committed minority refuses to compromise on certain standards, such as dietary restrictions, safety protocols, or ethical practices, these standards often become widespread because accommodating them is easier than opposing them. For example, if only a small percentage of people insist on food being halal or kosher, manufacturers may choose to label all products accordingly rather than produce separate versions. Similarly, strict environmental regulations in one region can set a precedent for global companies, forcing them to comply worldwide rather than modify policies for different markets. This principle shows how seemingly small changes in behavior can lead to significant societal shifts. It also underscores the importance of having skin in the game in ideological and cultural battles. Those who are willing to stand firm on their principles often shape the direction of society more than the passive majority. Fragility, anti-fragility, and skin in the game. Taleb extends his previous work on anti-fragility, the idea that some systems thrive under stress and uncertainty, by showing how skin in the game contributes to resilience. When people bear risks personally, they develop systems that are robust and adaptive. However, when decision-makers are insulated from consequences, they create fragile structures that collapse under pressure. Stay tuned for more enlightening content. Head over to www.mybooksummary.com. Don't forget to subscribe and share the magic with friends. And let's grow together through the power of books and interesting stories.